It's not just large corporations that'll pay 100, 200,000, even $400,000 for consulting engagements. In this episode of Profitable Joyful Consulting, I'm sharing how you can expand by working with perfect clients, perfect in size and in their needs. I'll share how you can transition B2C executive coaching services to B2B consulting engagements. You'll learn what clients who don't seem like they need you at all are there to teach you. Expand with clients who are the perfect fit for your gifts and talents in this episode. Hey, it's Samantha Hartley, and this is Profitable Joyful Consulting. This season, we are talking about expansion. And today, I wanted to talk about expanding through working with perfect clients at the right level. There's a lot of nuance in what I'm going to discuss today. And I'm going to share some examples of my clients and how I advise them to change the way they're working. The clients need to be at the right level. And when I use that word, immediately I see kind of like a hierarchy and a patriarchy and all of these archies that I don't want to see. I don't want to suggest that human beings are at different levels. When I'm talking about the levels in this case, I kind of mean Maslow. Quick refresher, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, depicted as a pyramid, shows that some human needs take priority over others. Starting from the base, it includes physiological needs like food and water, then safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, and it culminates in self-actualization at the top. And even though Maslow started with like the basic kind of just like survival needs and then moved all the way up to self-actualization, for a lot of us, we're working at the higher levels of Maslow's pyramid. And so it doesn't really fit like a one-to-one relationship in our work. But I want you to think about the levels of sophistication in that way. Like some of our clients, they're just really trying to work on getting through their day and just like, can I just do my job? Or can I function with my health, my well-being, my job functions, whatever those things are. Whereas other of our clients, they're really functioning pretty well and they want to get better at what they're doing. And then we have the highest level ones who maybe like have tons of responsibility and are doing an amazing job, like really winning at life, but there's still like something that is between them and the next level for them. So those kind of levels say to me, like, listen, people are all people, they're all doing their best. And you are a better fit to work with clients at one of those particular levels than another consultant. So when we assess for ourselves who is a perfect fit client, that's the really important thing. We have to decide at what level is that person or that organization, and what's your gift or talent, strength that you are bringing to that situation. Perfect clients is not about value judgments about anybody here. It's really about who is best suited to receive from you and what are those gifts that you're supposed to be bringing through at this moment, at this new and next level of your business, because you have opportunities to expand profitability, total revenues by working with clients who can really receive a lot of value from you, because the more value you give to clients, the more you can charge them for that. You can increase and expand in the amount of joy you have in your business, because when you work with clients who are really bringing through the latest version of your gifts, like the most innovative, I always do this gesture of like kind of channeling, downloading from the universe. You're bringing through this most recent evolution of your gifts. That's when it's like you feel yourself on the cutting edge, like your own cutting edge. And it's super fun and cool and interesting. So that to me is what makes our work amazing. When we get to experience ourselves that way, like you say some sort of genius and you're like, that's the first time I've ever said that, or that's the first time I've just realized and like crystallized that idea. And it's very often the clients that you're working with who allow you to bring those things forward. So they need to be at the right level. You need to be at the right level. So I have 3 different situations I want to review with you. I'll share with you each scenario, and then you can think about how this applies to your consultancy. The first one I want to talk about is my client, Meg, and she's an executive coach. And she had traditionally always been working with women leaders, and they were within organizations, and she was working with them on like navigating the politics of the organizations and how to be more successful and get promoted and all of the things that women leaders want to work on when they're part of corporations. And she'd hit a revenue ceiling, and she was really feeling like this was as far as she had been able to take the business. So B2C means business to consumer. And in this case, it's really kind of a person to person, business to consumer relationship. And the opportunity here was for her to go to organizations and say, hey, I'm working with a number of your women leaders. Why don't we come together and I'll do something for all of them? And then there is an efficiency for the business or that organization. In this case, she's working with really large companies. So that organization can say, hey, yeah, we want to bring together all of our women leaders, or they can say, we have a lot of high potential women that we want to identify. They might say that entire department, let's get them together in the coaching and find those efficiencies. We want the organization to notice the efficiency and the total value that they receive from someone like my client working with them. So that sales opportunity is going to be greatly magnified versus what she's charging individually. Now, I say that having clients who are executive coaches who charge as much as $300,000 a year to work with a single executive. Now, that executive in some case is a CEO or close to a CEO, like president level, VP of a very large Fortune 100. You can see those kind of numbers when you're working with individuals in that kind of what I would still consider B2C coaching. But you nevertheless hit limits, and there are opportunities if you want to go into and sell more B2B. What does this look like if you're not an executive coach? So I've talked to plenty of people who are like, I really want to sell to corporates. And I'm like, what do you really mean by corporates? Well, they're like, I'm selling to individuals. So they'll work with like a single solopreneur or that kind of one person coaching or consulting. And when they're ready, the opportunity to level up is to take that same thing to a business. So if you're a health coach, you can go to any business that has like 5 or more people in it and say, what's the cost of your organization not being healthy? Now, if you've got 50 people in that organization, now you're really talking. When you take an offer of like what you would do for an individual and you take that into an organization, then it's pretty easy to make a business pitch, a business case about why there's efficiency in purchasing your services on behalf of the organization for the people in it. So health, communication, conflict resolution, any kind of service that you're doing on a one-on-one basis right now, you can take into an organization. Your job is to figure out what's the benefit for an organization. Who's an organization that I think I have an in into? And then how do I make that approach and that pitch? The ins you have are usually, obviously, your network, but very often the individuals that you're working with right now, they can bring you into either their organization or an organization that they know about. You have people who've experienced the value of the service and they can bring you into those organizations. So those are very often paths from B2C to B2B. Another way I've seen this look, I had a client who just specialized in middle managers, and he went from working with single individuals to saying like, why don't I work with all of the middle managers in this company? It wasn't the entire company at once, but it would start with the division and then go from there. Kind of zooming out from whatever you're focused on will show you that where there are bigger opportunities. But anytime you take a service, if it works really well in a one-on-one situation, there is an organization that you can take it into who will see the value in it. It's just a matter of you making that pitch, making a compelling case for it. What's the problem? What's the cost of that problem? What would it be like if they did not have that problem? What would be possible? So inefficient communications, inefficient meetings, what are those costing them? Tons and tons of opportunity in diversity and equity and inclusion work here. So if you're working on an individual, the way this will look very often is an organization has said, hey, we got a problem person. So take that problem person and expand it to that entire department, because anytime you reinforce work that is being done with an individual in an organization, then the chances of the results of that work sustaining greatly improve. So can you go from one to many? Can you go from someone who has hired you individually into an organization? You definitely can. The next couple of clients I want to tell you about are Danny and Sharon. Danny came out of a Fortune 50 financial services company, and Sharon came out of mid-sized manufacturing. And in both cases, their first clients were their acquaintances. And so there were these little mom and pops. Danny came to me one day in just insane frustration because she kept trying to pitch this training that had been so popular at her corporate employer to these little companies. And she was like, I'm only charging them $22,000 and they won't buy it. And I was like, nobody wants a training, hon. So I'll tell you what we did with her, but Sharon had the same situation. She was like, well, my heart is with these smaller companies, like small town America companies. And I was like, I get that your heart is with them, but that's not what your skill set is. You've been working with these much larger companies and these organizational level problems. And so that value cannot be received by these little small companies. So you need to look at a different level. And in both cases, it might have seemed like, no, they should go back to the large companies they were working with, but that's not always the case. Where I feel like a lot of consultants overlook opportunity is with mid-sized companies. They either go like way too small where it's like a car, you can't get it out of first gear. You have so much that's more sophisticated, and it sounds like there's a judgment in there. But to me, it's not a judgment. It's just about the kind of value that those small clients can receive. They can't do something with that kind of complication. If you've ever thought about enterprise level software and like whether you need that, no, you don't need that. You need an Excel spreadsheet. So it's just that kind of difference. Similarly, another one of my recent clients came from consumer goods, and her company is like a model for a lot of other small companies. And so when she comes to work with them, she's like a goddess. They're like, oh my God, you worked with so and so. We want to be just like them. So imagine the value that she brings, that perceived value. She could go and work with other companies like the one that she came out of, but then she's going to be obviously valuable, but it's not quite the same level of prestige and value that she can bring to these smaller sized companies. So what does a smaller size mean? I really love this 15 to 25 million. And I'm saying these in revenue levels. You want to come up with like these striations that make sense. So like 5 to 15 makes sense. 15 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 100. Those levels make sense. If you say, I work with businesses anywhere from, 5 to $100 million, 5 million to 100 million, it's hard to make sense of like what a $5 million company has in common with a $100 million company. So when you're grouping who you're working with, that's the way you want to think. It's like the demographic needs to make sense. And it doesn't have to be by revenue level. It can be by number of employees. That's the way a lot of human resources consultants or leadership consultants will do it. It's like, well, they have over 150 people or whatever. Just make sure that you're saying it in a way that makes sense, because to create a message that's going to open doors for you with organizations of this level, you're going to talk about the kind of challenges they have for businesses in the $25 to $50 million range who are struggling with whatever's the problem. I help them to get outcome that you get for them. That's your value message. And it really crystallizes around the kinds of problems that are endemic to organizations of that size. So this is why I love, if you come out of a corporation, like I didn't want to go work with other Fortune 50s. I was like, dude, never again. But I love these smaller size companies because, first of all, again, you're a goddess when you come from those big ones. So I was the hero. I had a very high value for them. This is another really, I think, important point. When you work with really large companies, there's a ton of bureaucracy. It can be hard to get results implemented and continue those because they change around so often. They'll tell you what they'll pay you, and very often it'll be by the hour based on an hourly rate, which I don't like. So there's many complications with really large companies that if they work for you, awesome. That's great. And I have tons of clients who work with, Google's, Facebook's, Coca-Cola's, all of those companies, and that's fine. I'm just saying that what I love is these middle-sized companies because of all the things I just said. In my experience, mid-sized companies don't bulk at 100K plus engagements. My clients who are doing the 400Ks, they are in companies of this range. 25 to 50 million in revenues and growing fast. Like you can still in this segment get a really good financial lift, like really good results, which can be super gratifying and also good for you because they see you as super valuable when you can get results. So they're nimble enough to be able to make quick decisions. You don't get lost in their bureaucracy. And these companies will have high value problems that's the solution of which is incredibly valuable to them, which means they'll pay you a lot of money for it. All people problems are necessarily expensive. Whether you have a little small $1 million company or whether you have a multi-billion dollar company. So coming into these organizations, you can easily sell 100K engagements into that level all day long. Why? An individual salary is $75,000 to $150,000 on average, right? If that person turns over, it's already cost us $300,000. If they're disengaged, if I have 5 of them like that are disengaged, it's costing me $500,000. You can just see how these numbers add up. If my meetings are always inefficient in our organization, you take 5 of those people and then it's an hour and then they meet once a month. So that's times 12. You take all of these financial challenges and multiply them by the number of people you have, and it's an expensive problem. People problems are always expensive. And so when you come in to work on people problems, which and 9 times out of 10, Everything you touch is going to be a people problem. Even my clients who work in marketing are working on the people in the organization aren't doing the marketing, or we need to amplify the work of the organization. We need to bring in marketing help. The ones who are doing finance, well, turns out the finance people in this organization are overwhelmed, and so we need to augment them, or other things. Those people problems, people amplifications, people improvements are great places for you to come in as an outside consultant in this mid-level to make amazing impact. Fun story about Danny, that $22,000 training that she couldn't sell. She eventually was able to sell into a 12 million. They grew from 12 to 20 million. That company, she was able to sell a $200,000 engagement into based on the work that we did, moving away from the little ones and really figuring out what the value was to the 20 million. They would pay $200,000 to her for that. So it shows you that a value proposition made to the right level of organization is going to get you the value and the payment that you're looking for. The last dynamic that I want to talk about are next level clients. Next level clients come to you, and when they do, they seem like they don't need anything. You wonder to yourself, I don't know why you're here and why we're having this conversation, because it doesn't seem like of all the things that I sell, you need any of that. You seem like you have your act together. When this has happened to me, I've been having a conversation with someone, and I'll ask what I do in discovery sessions, like what's going on with your organization and what are your challenges and what are your this and that. And they don't have any of the problems of the current clients that I'm working with. And I just have to go, okay, do you even have anything? Let's like, what would I even do with you? That's what I call next level clients. And their job is to pull through your next evolution, your next level of genius, your next skill set that you're going to be bringing to planet Earth. Their job is to bring that through. So even though you are their coach or consultant, they're going to be teaching you by what they need, what your next level of development is. So it's super cool and amazing. And I'm talking about it because I really want you to recognize it when it happens. I was just talking recently to someone who said, like, what I feel like I'm doing in the world is helping women to have more confidence. But my latest client has tons of confidence. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. Like, how do I reconcile that with what I think my mission is? Well, clearly, it's not getting confidence out of people. It's paying attention to what wants to come through next. So I don't necessarily know the answer in that case, but what I do know is the thing that we're to do is to pay attention to what they're doing. In the beginning, I worked with consultants who struggled to get clients. In general, I worked with small businesses on client attraction. I even had a program called the Client Attraction Club. It was all about client attraction. And much later in my business, I would have people come to me and they would be like, oh, I don't want new clients. I'm up to here. I'm exploding, overloading, overflowing with clients. That's not what I want. And I would think, what? Well, then what are we going to do? And that's when I learned how to help consultants and small businesses who were over busy, like that they needed to structure how they did the work. They needed to value themselves more. They needed to do all these things. So when I transitioned to working exclusively with consultants, that was the transition. First, it was, here are consultants who are really struggling to get out of the starting gate. They really want to get a steady stream of clients coming to them. And then the next group would be the ones who were on the revenue roller coaster. Like they really did know how to get clients to come to them. But for some reason, their revenues were always going up and down and up and down and up and down. Newsflash, that's because they were selling project work instead of transformational engagements. And so the projects were constantly ending and other things. And then the next group that began to come to me were the next level clients that I just referred to, who were like, I'm slammed. I don't have revenue roller coaster. I'm as busy as I know how to be, and I can't grow my business because I don't have any more time. I have all the clients that I can handle. What do I do? You can imagine when that first showed up, I was like, oh, let's figure it out. So then we figured out like what was broken in the business model and how they needed to work differently in order to be able to do what they wanted to do in their business, which is, by the way, have more profit and joy, like some time off and not be working all the time. That has been the progression of the next level clients. And who knows what the next level from that will be. But what I can tell you is I learned so much from each level of my clients. Now, I still work with everyone from each of those groups, but I'm constantly evolving the skills that I'm bringing through so that the most sophisticated, the most advanced level of clients teach me how I can get better, faster results with clients who are struggling with more basic problems. So it's really going from fundamentals to more advanced. That's your opportunity in your work when you're working with next level clients. Who comes to you and seems like they don't need you at all? And can you pay attention to what you're supposed to be bringing through and sharing with them? For years, one of my clients would work on continuous improvement. And when those initiatives wouldn't sustain, she realized that the people component was missing. That continuous improvement was very much about processes, but it omitted the people element. So in her next level clients, they would be the ones who had done all of the work on continuous improvement. Yeah, we know that language. Yeah, we know those processes. Yeah, we know how to do that stuff, but it still isn't working for us. How come? And so the next level for her was, I get why you're here. You think I can help you with this. And what I'm discovering is it's a people piece that's missing. So she would bring that element in. Had another client who worked on culture stuff, and a culture finally came to her where they were super macho, had machoed themselves out, and they needed to bring in feminine. And it might seem counterintuitive in terms of that being the next level of like what they might need from her. But this is a hard nut to crack when you have the masculine coming at you that hard. And how do you go in there as a woman and help them to transform that culture? It was like graduate level skill set required of her, but that's what she's been doing. So she didn't know how to do that when they first came to her, but through the work and paying attention, and I think really tuning into intuition, she has been able to turn that into a perfect client and a very, very high value client. The expansion that I'm talking about here is not necessarily with adding more clients, but really being very discerning in looking at who you're adding, who is really the perfect fit for you. Exactly what they need is exactly what you do. So sometimes it's going to look like taking the thing that you do for individuals and moving that into organizations. Sometimes it means going from really large organizations to finding the right level organization for you and finding the right high value, high impact problems that you can solve for the right size of client. And sometimes it's going to look like working with clients who don't initially seem like they have anything wrong. They don't need you at all, but they aren't quite getting what they want. They aren't quite achieving their goals, and they think you're the one who can help them. If you'd like to know more about Danny, Sharon, and my other clients who have closed six-figure engagements with perfect fit clients, then I invite you to go to SamanthaHartley.com. At the top of that page, you will see the definitive guide to winning six-figure clients, and you can download it there. Next week, I will be back asking the question, should you expand your consulting business with a partnership? And with that, I'm wishing you a profitable and joyful consulting business.